Hello, everybody. I have been gone for the past few months. I haven't posted anything here for almost 3 months, and it's because I've been busy. I have been working on a book, and the book is finished. It is complete, it's published, it's available. I'm very excited about it. And yeah, if you want to check it out, I will talk about it more directly at the end of this. But there is a link in the show notes or the description if you want to check it out. Highly recommend you do. It's amazing. I'm happy about it. And it takes a lot for me to say that about something that I created myself. So yeah, I feel really happy with what came out of that process. And that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about today, which is something I had a lot of time to think about, and something I had to do some soul searching around while I was working on this book, which is just the reality of my life as a 37-year-old man who works in the evenings at a restaurant waiting on tables, which is not the most esteemed job in our society. However, it has been a perfect fit for my life over these past several years, and I do love it. Um, but yeah, just the reality of my life as a server in a restaurant who's also a writer, which I can do in my daytime with all the free time I have. Um, I've written a couple books in the last few years. The one I just published, and then one I published 2.5, almost 3 years ago. With that book that I published, it didn't blow up into something superficially wildly successful. And so it's very easy for me to have a voice that comes into my head and just asks me, Miles, are you sure this is what you want to do with your life? Do you really think this makes sense? You're not a kid anymore, man. Like, because throughout my adult life, I've made consistently unusual choices in a lot of areas. Definitely in the area of like career. Um, I just haven't been motivated by chasing like wealth or normalcy. And my choice to be an author and to put a tremendous amount of energy into that, even when the economics of it seem kind of crazy, um, is part of that, just that life path I've walked down of just being very unconventional. But it puts me in a position now in my life where if I want to beat up on myself, if I want to look at things in a way that's self deprecating, it's very easy for me to say, dude, what the hell are you doing? You are a self-published, like a fledgling self-published author. You're working a job that doesn't really, utilize your gifts or your potential, and you're not doing anything to rectify that. You're just digging deeper into what could be a pipe dream of being an author. Um, and certainly like it's been an act of faith to sit down and write the book I just finished. Um, Not necessarily that it will be successful superficially, but just that, like, I mean, I think writing a book is such an enormous undertaking for anybody, anytime, that it requires some kind of faith. It's this wonderful, painful act of delayed gratification, where, in my case, for the past 7 months, which is a very short time to write a book from like nothing to completion, it's crazy. I'm just kind of in shock that it happened the way it did, but I'm very grateful. Um, but yes, this delayed gratification, I started last winter, last fall, um, with nothing but a feeling and a vision. I just went into that by myself. And then for months and months, just devoted so much time, so much energy into this thing that I had no idea if anybody would ever like it, if it made sense, if it was coherent. I just had to follow the feeling and this voice and my own sensibility. Just use myself as the audience and be like, do I like it? Yes. Does it feel good to me? Yes. Is this what I want to like see in the world and put into the world? Yes. Just following that and trusting it. Um, it's a real gamble, because it's a lot of energy to put into something not knowing and just believing and guessing and just being like, well, I feel it so strong I have to. It's yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's somewhat torturous. While I was doing it, like I said, there was just many times where I was like, why are you doing this? This is like an insane, irrational allocation of your life energy, your time, your resources. Because the last book I published, like I said, 2.5, 3 years ago, it did not take off superficially. Like it has consistently sold some copies here and there as I continue to do different things to get that work out into the world. But my initial expectations, hopes, dreams, projections, that book did not come close to meeting them. It didn't. And so there was this strange superficial reality. It's not strange, it's just the superficial reality of creating something, putting it out to the world, then seeing it not perform the way I thought it would. And then there's this other reality that's very, very, very important for me to acknowledge personally. It's the reality of the people that did read that book. It wasn't the number of people I thought that would so far. I mean, it's still just, and it just grows. But the people who did read it, like, I would get such moving feedback from them. It was so strong. It was so kind of like validating of what I had shared. And it was so encouraging and sincere and soulful and beautiful that it's like, well, I can't get that. And then just like, it's not a failure if superficially there's, if I'm comparing it to other things superficially, okay, it's not what other things are. But on this like soulful level, on a more kind of humanistic level, the feedback I got was so beautiful and so moving and so sincere. To ignore that, and there's a part of my mind that finds it hard to let that in. I think a lot of us have that, and it's almost like a curse. There's this part of us that we could have so much love around us, so much goodness that's right here if we could just let it in. But there's this thing in the mind that's not noticing it because it's too busy cut off from the intimacy of this moment. And it's thinking about what it could have, what it could be, what it's not, what it doesn't have. And so it doesn't let in all of this gorgeous love that's right here. It's too busy, detached from the moment, off thinking about the next thing or something that won't satisfy it probably, because it'll keep on being detached from the intimacy with this moment. So I have that in me, and I have to watch it, and I have to like really school myself and kind of balance these two realities. It's healthy for me to acknowledge where I'm at in my life. It's healthy for me to acknowledge like, okay, well, this is why I'm, doing this at this age, and these are the things that I want to do to keep on pushing myself and taking risks and learning and growing and really fulfilling my potential as a person. So it's healthy for me to take stock of like, and just admit to myself and own it. Like, I'm a dude that works at a restaurant, self-published author, almost like a cliche for my generation, the guy who's trying to make it. And, there's a way of like embracing that and owning it and holding it that just like it actually feels good, and in embracing even the elements of it that could feel like failures. Yeah, and there's a way of looking at that could be, could make me feel ashamed, could make me want to give up and lose hope, and yet um, as I was working on this book and occasionally having this inner dialogue, there was just, I mean, there's just no way I was going to give up. I was just like, I can't. I'm in on this. I want, it's like, I don't feel like a failure, even though superficially my life could look that way to somebody else. I don't feel it when I'm really honest with what's going on, and when I really ground in to the vision I have and my commitment to it. So I think when I know that for me, when I'm giving myself to the work that I have to do in life, then it doesn't really matter like uh, my comparisons with others who are more successful seem, just comparison itself seems less relevant because I'm doing my thing. And, even if it is very humbling and humble, and um, what it means to me and what it does inside of me feels like kind of the most significant thing. So, yeah, this question would circle back again and again. And I mean, the book is done. I'm here talking about it. So obviously I sunk my teeth in and I was just like, yeah, I understand. This is crazy, but I'm okay with that. People do crazy things, Where I arrived was, I guess, this acceptance, and not just acceptance, but like love for where I'm at, because um the conditions, like with my last book not blowing up and taking off in a certain way, it created these like incredibly fertile conditions creatively, because I was so humbled and I had to really feel um my commitment to something, even when there wasn't like tons of validation. Now there was validation. There was people who would write me, who would let me know that they are, connected with my writing or my work. Um, but it would be easy to look at somebody whose career is just like exploding and look at that and be like, oh man, I might want to think about something else here. Um, but that's not how I felt, because it just felt so beautiful, and it just felt so invigorating to have something that could seem like a failure on the surface, but just feel my commitment to what I was doing, regardless of success or failure. It's like, no, actually, I'm firmly planted in this. I am who I am, regardless if someone calls me a good boy or a bad boy. Like, it's just this more grown up attitude and confidence. And having my experience with the last book be kind of humbling, um, really created these beautiful conditions for me to grow as a person and also creatively. I think, like, where I was when I wrote the book that I just finished, it was just this like beautiful place of humility and commitment. And yeah, so I'm like it's not failure if it's like just so miraculously beautiful. And that's been a lesson for me over and over. And maybe a lot of other people can relate to this, because, but again, for me, what it comes down to is when I'm letting the love in, instead of jumping up into my head and thinking about who I could churn myself into, or the other places I could be right now, or like just like detaching from the intimacy that I could have with this moment and going somewhere else. When I stay here and really let myself feel the beauty of what's here and the beauty of what life is asking of me and what I can offer to this moment in my life, life makes a lot more sense. It's a lot easier for me to find some direction. It's a lot easier for me to realize, like, damn, this is good. This is really, really good, just the way it is right now. And it's not like accepting something out of pity for myself, but it's really recognizing the beauty of what's here. Anyhow, just some thoughts that I wanted to share that came up in the lengthy creative process I was in. And yeah, like I said, my book is done. I'm really happy with it. It's called 10 Lessons in Love. It's a big autobiographical story, also kind of a collection of stories within a story. Um, it's about love, loss, loneliness, connection, finding strength. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. If you're interested in finding out more about it or checking it out, there's a link in the show notes or in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. I'm going to be posting much more frequently now. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful day.